And greetings, friends. Welcome to this post-Thanksgiving Long in the Boot podcast. I am your host, G. Long. Sitting across the way, as always, is Deb.
Hello, community.
There you go. And gobble, gobble. And there
we tried.
I know. We couldn't.
Did. We even
tried
listened.
to find a good gobble, but
they all just sounded weak.
Yeah, it did. And,
not any better than ours.
The email, again, longintheboot@gmail.com. Phone number 337-502-9011.
Ooh.
Yeah, I almost forgot
Bit of a
again.
brain on that one.
Yeah, buddy. It's the hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving and looking forward to a wonderful Christmas. Everybody's going to get a brand new mutation of the virus for Christmas. I'm so excited. Man.
Fauci told us not to panic just yet.
Well, when he says that, you might as well go.
Well, Pfizer says 100 days, and they'll have altered their vaccine enough to handle the new mutation.
So all you people went and got the booster right away.
Yeah.
You get to get another one.
You're going to boost again, buddy.
That's right. You're going to boost.
Boost again.
Boost, baby.
Yeah.
Boost, baby. Boom, 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 boom. Okay.
Wow. That is really old now, right? Ice Baby is like, I don't know, decades.
Still funny.
Past. Well, only if you understand.
Everybody understands Ice Baby.
Do we all?
Okay, well.
Thanksgiving is over.
Yeah, but we're going to put this podcast out a little early as.
Oh, you think you'll get done with it?
I'll put it out probably Sunday, which would be tomorrow.
Which is ritually the day we.
Normally we record them and then I put them out on Tuesday night.
But we're kind of bored and it's cold and rainy.
And we have things to address here.
Do we?
Well, the whole.
What are you going to address?
The whole address.
Oh, address.
Yes. We're going to.
Address the Thanksgiving stuff?
Yeah. It started
the
with,
myth surrounding it?
Well, it started with, let's at least go explain to our listeners.
First, society is gripey about some of the symbols and the stories surrounding Thanksgiving because they feel like they've been lied to, and that came to the forefront recently in
it's
a
been
Facebook
happening.
post.
It has been happening for probably the last 20 years.
Well, that goes back to Christmas, right? There was a time when you weren't allowed to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, they didn't want us to.
Don't say Happy Holidays,
right? Because
you're leaving people out. I haven't heard about Kwanzaa in the last 10 years. Have you heard Kwanzaa in 10 years?
Yeah, they still do it.
Oh,
it's still being done.
Well, maybe I just don't get out much.
Well, give it time. It was only made up and not too long ago.
Oh, wait. So some of our holiday traditions are made up?
I know, it's shocking.
It is shocking.
But they've been. For a long time now, at least 20 years, they've been gradually chipping away.
Well, we have. I mean, Columbus and all his foolishness. We all know the truth now. No, we see all sides of the story.
Well, you mean the truth that Christopher Columbus and the good Spanish brought God's Holy Mother Church to the New World and finally saved the souls of those natives who they discovered?
That's one opinion.
Who they thought were in India?
That's one side of the story.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So we're really, people are just upset because there are other sides. You know what? I have another side to the story as well. I see some of you having your second Thanksgiving. I'm looking at posts.
Right.
Beautiful family get-togethers. Everybody looked so happy and there was so much abundant food. But I mean, we didn't have one Thanksgiving.
We had spaghetti.
We had spaghetti on Thanksgiving. Tuesday, our daughter came out because she actually had to work on Thanksgiving. And we had the
traditional Thanksgiving sushi.
And you made this sushi, and it's not even traditional sushi because I don't eat seafood. So you improvised for me. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
My unpopular opinion of all of that is
hot and sour soup, and the fact is that Deb doesn't like any Thanksgiving food except probably mashed potatoes and gravy, maybe sweet potatoes.
I saw some mac and cheese on somebody's table in a picture that looked amazing.
Mac and cheese.
Yes, and some other desserts.
The traditional Thanksgiving mac and cheese.
I don't like turkey.
Doesn't like turkey.
Light meat
she
or
doesn't
dark
like
meat.
stuffing.
I don't like stuffing, corn or dressing.
She doesn't like green bean casserole.
Oh, that's just soupy, disgusting.
What else do you not like? Cranberries? You don't like cranberry
sauce. I like cranberries. I just don't like cranberry sauce. I don't like sweet potato pie.
The rolls are good.
The rolls are good. All the carbs are delicious. All the carbs. I don't like
except
pumpkin
stuffing.
pie.
You don't like stuffing.
I don't like pecan pie.
You don't like pecan pie?
I don't like pecan. 52% of people surveyed say pumpkin pie is the ultimate pie. 14% for
That's
pecan.
disgusting.
Sweet potato got 9%.
I like custard pie.
Yeah, custard pies are fine.
They used to make that when I was a kid.
You know, there was a part of the survey I have here is top 5 must-haves kitchen items on Thanksgiving Day. And number 1 must-have item, a double oven.
A double oven?
I don't. Who? I mean, I know a couple wealthy people who maybe have a double oven in their kitchen. Our son and his wife may have one in their brand new home.
Yeah, but
congratulations.
A double oven.
A double oven, number 1. What?
Kiss my ass.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 48% of people bake their turkeys.
The Pilgrims had one oven in their kitchen.
Did they? I thought they had to cook outdoors.
Yeah. But anyway, so what got us on this whole Pilgrim Thanksgiving thing?
Yeah, is the outrage.
The outrage.
The outrage.
We're discovering that there are a great many people who seem to not understand, history. No shock there.
Well, they feel like they were shorted in their
They feel
education.
like they were lied to because they bought into the myth.
That they were taught what in elementary school?
Right.
Making hand turkeys and wearing little pilgrim buckle hats.
Making buckle hats out of construction paper.
It's a little created
and
myth.
Misappropriating culture by dressing up like Native Americans.
You know, I don't even know why we have to have those terms. Don't misappropriate somebody's culture. Madonna was wearing braids the other day in her nasty little.
Yeah, we don't need to talk. Let's not sully this fine podcast by talking about Madonna.
We don't want to let everybody know that 63-year-old women are sexy and still viable and should be viewed as sexy.
Well, maybe so, but not Madonna.
I don't know. I don't think any of that was necessary.
I don't have any room left in my brain.
My speculation is that her bank account was dipping and that she needed to up the ante.
You know what? I'm not for Facebook censorship, but when they took her pictures off of Instagram, well done.
I did
well
not
done,
need to
Facebook.
see her ante all up.
You know
exposed.
What? Anything she posts, you can feel free to take it down. I don't want to hear any of it. I don't want to see any of it.
No,
She's disgusting.
Mr. Long, even unpopular opinions get shared.
Yeah, well.
That way everybody has a voice, and Madonna has a voice.
Okay, well, not on my podcast, man.
Well, I just want honest pictures. I don't want her smooth face and smooth neck, but her hands, are aged.
We're getting off track big time here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's all give thanks that we don't have to look at Madonna's mug right now.
She probably had Thanksgiving, too. She's Catholic.
Oh, I'm sure she had Thanksgiving, whatever. Okay.
All right. Well, she had an opinion, too. We'll share that later because she feels that Thanksgiving is, that's how we connect. Madonna's view of Thanksgiving reflects.
Well, I don't know her view of Thanksgiving.
We do. She quoted what she thought about Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right.
She felt like she'd been lied to as well. And
she was just simply trying to say things that would get the right people happy and the wrong people mad.
Oh, you feel like she's virtue signaling?
Absolutely, which is what a lot of these people are doing. To use another
term it's all
virtue signaling, and I'm just fed up with it. It's
okay.
Stupid.
All right. So let's our job here is to talk about the present.
Anyway, we had a former
past.
student who was shocked to learn that it wasn't all
rosy and
unicorns
happy
and rainbows
surrounding the pilgrim table.
Pilgrims and the Native Americans who they encountered.
It is a complex.
It's very complex, and we just need to dive into it a little bit.
Okay.
And
so you're going to back it up?
I'm going to back it up.
Back that shit up, G-Long.
Before the Pilgrims even arrive in the New World, we're going to go.
Why did they show up?
We're going to go way back, and I'm going to real quick talk about religion. Sorry.
Well, that's how they got here.
But that's why they came.
That was the impetus.
We had the Protestant Reformation took place in Germany for the most part.
Oh, those Germans.
Yeah, I know.
Always causing trouble.
Luther got very upset with the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church got very upset with Luther. Long story short.
He nailed some.
That's not even true. He didn't nail shit to anything. But I learned it. But he separated the churches in Germany. They separated from the Catholic Church and created a new church, the Lutheran Church, the original Protestant church. And once that happened, then people went, hey, if they can have a separate church, why can't we? So next door to Germany in Switzerland, a guy by the name of Zwingli, You remember him.
Say it again.
Zwingli.
Zwingli.
Ulrich Zwingli.
Oh, Ulrich, a fine name.
He created a new church that was even more strict than the Lutheran Church. The Lutheran Church kept some parts of the Catholic
some traditions
liturgy,
and rituals.
Got rid of a lot of them, but they kept, for instance...
They didn't like the showiness.
Well, the Lutheran Church kept like stained glass, and they kept icons like Jesus on the cross and statues of the Virgin Mary.
But that was still too much for the...
Still too much for the Zwinglians. And Zwingli was so determined to stamp out Catholicism that he and his followers made war on the Catholics in Switzerland, and they were promptly killed.
Well, yeah, because there were so many
and
Catholics.
Zwingli was gone, but we still had a bunch of Swiss who were looking for someone to lead them, and a guy by the name of John Calvin, who was French, but also a Protestant, showed up, and he was more than willing to lead them with his new faith, which would become, over time, Calvinism.
Well,
a new version of Christianity. This one was far more strict, though. This one...
Yeah, they didn't like any of the ostentatious
none of the Catholic
elements
stuff.
of the Catholic Church. No gold, no stained glass.
They also didn't like the idea of free will. They had predestination. Your will was not your own.
So whatever happens to you is a result of what's
everything
supposed to
that
happen.
happens is God's will, and nothing you do can change it.
You can't change it
at all.
So
in fact, you can't even change.
Anything?
You can't even change, according to Calvin. You couldn't even change who was going to heaven and who wasn't, because the elect were already chosen. But you better live a good life.
Yeah, because you don't know if you're the elect.
And don't gamble,
not.
don't sing, don't dance.
Although, if you have money, you might be elected because they kind of liked it.
Yeah, well. Anyway, so Calvinism ends up spreading faster than even Lutheranism, and Calvinism got its toehold in England because of their issues.
Yes.
And their issues go basically focus on, well, we can focus on Henry VIII's
we've talked about him before and his
desire
issues and
to have a new wife, and he needed a divorce. He couldn't get one in the Catholic Church.
So we're going to find
he dissolved the church and created the Church of England.
Which creates a little chaos.
Or the Anglican Church.
You start messing with people's beliefs.
But he forced Catholics to take oaths of loyalty to him as the head of the new church. But as Calvinism spread in England, gradually we had the rise during Elizabeth's reign, the daughter of Henry, of the Puritans. And the Puritans were hardcore Calvinists. Mm-hmm. They didn't like anything ostentatious at all in church. It was whitewashed buildings, no stained glass, no statues,
Don't have fun. Don't listen to music. Don't.
You can have a cross up, but Jesus can't be on it. It was very, very
they wanted things
strict
pure
and stark. And
they wanted it pure and stark.
They wanted a pure church. And some Puritans wanted to reform the Anglican Church. Some Puritans wanted to reform the Anglican Church, but there were some that wanted to separate from the Anglican Church altogether
Completely.
and create a brand new Protestant church. And these guys rose up to prominence during the reign of King James.
Schisms. You got all these little groups, these offshoots.
Well, King James tried to satisfy everybody by having, for instance, a new Bible created. The King James Version of the Bible. Yes. But the Puritans wouldn't use that. They refused to use it. They only used the Geneva Bible, which is, it's not important what the difference is. It's just know that they did not like the return. King James tried to return Anglican into a more Catholic-like system.
But in their view, he was rewriting and changing it.
Well, he was bringing them
moderate
back.
It.
They felt he was bringing them back to the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And because he brought back the pageantry and all the vestments and all that stuff. So anyway.
The aesthetics that caused them grief.
Some of the Puritans were so devout in their beliefs that they said, we're leaving. We're going to create.
We're taking our cross and we're going.
They promptly went to the Netherlands, where they thought they could create a separate church of their own in the Netherlands, because Netherlands was already Protestant. Everything would be great.
Problem was
they were the Netherlands.
They already had their shit together.
And they were the Dutch. And the kids of these separatist Puritans
started seeing how these Dutch children lived. And, well, young people change things.
They do, and they can.
But the elders were not happy with all that.
No, so they
what, a decade, 10 years they stayed.
Yeah, and so we get up close to the 1620s.
Think about that. You show up in the Netherlands with a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
and now you've got a 20-year-old who spent the last 10 formative years viewing. Well,
looking at Dutch girls.
Exactly. We got to get out of this place.
So as we're coming up on the 1620s, there's a new place to possibly go. The English had begun settling the east coast of the United States and had established a colony in Virginia.
Yes. Well, but not for religious reasons.
No, just as a business, actually as a business opportunity.
Yeah, and they were kind of a rowdy group, pretty much only men, right? And a little bit rowdy.
Right.
Personal gain was their drive.
So the Puritans, long story short, gathered the funds necessary, got the ships outfitted in order to head to the New World and establish their own their own place.
They had to start from scratch.
And their intention was to land in Virginia, move inland a little bit, and then establish a colony of like-minded Puritan types.
And create a city on a hill that everybody could look to.
Right.
And see the glory of God.
And they were not in any way, shape, or form headed to Massachusetts. Let's get that out of the way off the bat.
That's not their plan.
That was not their plan. That was not their goal. And so they sailed.
But weather don't care.
Weather don't care. And they were way off target. They came in north of Virginia and could not sail south because of the winds.
Yeah.
Wrong time of year for it. So they began sailing up the coast, and now their goal is to go to another area that they know exists, and that's the Hudson, the mouth of the Hudson River.
Oh, okay.
Problem there, the darn Dutch got there first.
Oh, and they've already had their issues with that. Yeah, so this is just more of the same.
So they don't want to do that. So they continue north.
We need to start fresh, damn it.
And they're looking for a bay. They're just looking for a place where they can shelter.
Can bring in their.
And this is also starting. Winter's getting close.
Yeah, that they landed at a very bad time.
Yes,
for
they did.
East Coast weather.
And they finally find their bay near Plymouth, and they pull in and park.
They anchor.
And
nautical terms you need.
Yeah, they anchor. They backed in.
Back it up.
Nobody likes it when people back up a ship. Anyway, so there they are. They're the Pilgrims. They're at Plymouth, former village called Puxaton or Patuxet. That's it. Patuxet was an Indian colony or an Indian village that once belonged to the Wampanoags.
Yeah, but then
that was empty.
Well, the French showed up and
the French had showed up earlier.
Their gift of
their gift of smallpox and disease, and pretty well wiped out about 100,000.
Yeah, in 3 years.
3 years, 100,000 Wampanoag Indians, Native Americans.
They should have worn masks.
Oh, that would have helped.
I think 2 masks would have probably saved them.
2 masks are better. So
disease took them out. They left. They either died or fled and left this nice little area.
Well, the villages of the Wampanoags were set up as family units, basically. So any survivors would have had to have gone and lived at other villages.
Yeah, they would have just been absorbed into the surrounding communities. But they would have avoided
that village pretty much because
it had a bad juju.
Yeah, exactly. There's some stories that say the Pilgrims knew this about the village. They did not.
No, we came across some researched information.
They were just trying to get a place they could stop.
And it was already cleared.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clearly an area that they could set up. Before. Yeah, so it was,
And so that's how they got to where they ended up. But now we need to, real quick, before we go any further with the Pilgrims doing their thing, we should talk just briefly about the myth.
Oh, how that began? The
myth.
The times of their lives.
The idea of the myth.
Well, that didn't get created right away.
No, we have the myth of the intrepid Pilgrims coming to the New World.
Well, as they said, about 20 years later, they started realizing that they kind of needed to put together this idea and the story so that they could send back to England the ideas that this is a wonderful place in celebration of God. They couldn't really use the whole Virginia colony because...
And they needed more people.
And they needed more people to come, so they needed to play it up, right? They needed to make it look
because the part of the myth where they talk about how half the people died, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Pilgrims, they lost.
Well, but that just shows the sacrifice, for God.
Of course.
That they're willing to.
Oh, yeah.
So the Pilgrim myth had matured by 1820 into a robust tale, right? That's the 200th anniversary of their landing. Pilgrim Society was established in 1819, and one of the first items on their agenda was and this is the word, the construction of the history. They constructed a Pilgrim Hall, and they claimed by many that was the oldest museum, right? It still stands today in Plymouth if you go visit. When it first opened, they had all sorts of objects from when the Pilgrims landed. They had furniture from the Mayflower.
Right.
All of that in order to mark the 200th anniversary of the founding of Plymouth, and they wanted to celebrate that with great enthusiasm.
And I think that's the important bit right there. 200 years had already passed.
Had already gone by. Daniel Webster got out there next to the rock, which was located in Town Square, right next to Plymouth Rock, and oratized.
If 100 years after the Pilgrims landed, there were no myths about welcoming the Indians in and having this wonderful feast and all that crap.
And that's the point. It didn't start overnight, right? They had been building this idea of what went on.
They're building a mythos to satisfy people of a new country, the United States, to give us some grounding. At every group of people, nation, families, whatever, they need myths.
Yes, they need powerful symbols. It says the evolution of the national view of the forefathers, right? Combined with other potentially powerful symbols, Plymouth Rock and all of the things that surround that. They call it the fabric of the Pilgrim myth, so that we have something to hang our coats on.
It's just like George Washington and throwing the coin across the river and chopping down the cherry tree.
We need
and
those
all that
small
nonsense.
little snippets that we can hang on to because we learn through story.
That's it. Exactly. That's what the Pilgrim story is. It's a story.
And some elements are absolutely true. And why would you tell the worst parts? Why would you say that
you should realize that at a certain point in your life, you should come to the realization that there's probably a lot of untruths in that mythic story.
That it's deeper than that it's not all just black and white. But what do you teach elementary school children? They're not really understanding gray areas.
Yeah, we're not ready
to talk about the politics that all the Indian tribes had going on.
That's what's going on. So we built this mythos of Thanksgiving dinner.
And how the founding fathers were saved.
But we're talking about Thanksgiving specifically, the Pilgrims.
The day. Okay.
The day they have the Indians, supposedly they invite the Indians to share in this bounty because the Indians had helped them weather the storm of winter. And, that was great. They invited them in. They all shared turkey and cranberries and pumpkin pie or whatever. And
walnuts.
all was wonderful and good. And, it's a story.
Yeah.
The fact is, and this is where it gets fun, let's rejoin the Pilgrims, shall we? Okay. They land. They then immediately have to start trying to figure out how to survive.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they could run to the store.
Well, and that wasn't their experience. I mean, they didn't have experience with nature. We also know that they were fearful of nature.
They were city dwellers.
They had not had to deal with killing their own.
They brought a few soldiers with them, a couple. Miles Standish being one of them.
They had some servants who could probably do some of the hard work.
They had servants.
Although a servant was the first casualty once landing, yeah.
But they also had sailed into a situation that they had no idea was going on. And that was they had landed in the midst of a political crisis, not for English people.
No, for the Indians.
For the Native Americans.
Natives, yes.
The Wampanoag Indian tribes were at war with the Narragansetts.
Had been living life and doing things for a very long time.
That's
and the Europeans go and step their crap into it.
And that's where schools probably dropped the ball when it comes to educating kids. I think kids are probably old enough by fourth grade to understand that it was for the best way to explain what happened really would be to say it was like these people were landing on a new planet.
Yeah.
They show up and they don't know what's been going on. It's like dropping into a conversation in the middle, and so the Wampanoags have they have goals and ideas of what they want to happen. The Pilgrims have goals and ideas of what they want
need to happen. So they're trying to come to a consensus. But also language is a huge barrier.
But luckily for the Pilgrims,
luckily an Indian was captured as a slave and sent back to England.
Luckily,
for a few years.
Earlier an English group had enslaved one of the Native Americans, who managed to make his way back to.
That was God's will.
Of course, it was. He's called Squanto in a lot of books, but his name is far more complicated. We'll just call him Squanto. But
the dogs want you to say it correctly. Can you pronounce it?
Well, I'm trying to locate it. I have his name here somewhere, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I have a thing here. The myth of the Pilgrims has 3 central themes. The first being the forefathers, Plymouth Rock, and the Compact. Right, those are the 3 major
the Mayflower
things.
Compact.
Yes, those are the 3 major themes. So I guess if you're trying to put together a curriculum for young people, elementary aged kids, then those are the 3 areas that you're going to talk about, right? So Indians are only there as an aid to help them survive.
Right.
We don't really need to talk about the fact that later you get into that. When we used to teach 11th grade American literature, then you would start with the Indian myths, which weren't written down, and they were only, and see, there's the problem, communication. If the Indians had written down their side of the story, perhaps we would have been teaching that as well. But their side of the story didn't get written down until much, much later. So we don't have their views of everything, because I'm sure they thought these people were just a bit much. A little bit much.
Yeah, probably so.
They were probably kind of difficult to deal with.
And I mean, again, they didn't know anything about the other.
Yeah.
Although Squanto being there, he would have at least had an idea.
Yes, of how they had lived in Europe.
Of where they came from.
And so he would have been a vital asset to both sides, actually, in helping in the understanding. Because communication, I mean, look.
Well, and what's weird is Squanto would have died in the plague. He wasn't
had he been there. See, it really is God's will.
See there?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, because you have to think about that. I mean, our complaint is that we're not teaching all of the all sides of the story, and we're trying to rectify that right now, all in the year 2020, 22, 21. We're going to fix all injustices and
in
make it right.
In 1970, Native Americans, the Wampanoags in particular,
came forward,
created the National Day of Mourning.
Oh.
And it just happens to be on Thanksgiving Day.
But really, I think what I had learned from William Bradford's stuff, I think they really celebrated that like in December, didn't they? Wasn't it later in December? I came across something that said December 22nd.
Tisquantum.
Tisquantum. That's you
Squanto. Took me a while.
I know.
Yeah, we're not really sure of the date. It may have been December. It would have had to have been somewhat warm. They had a vicious winter.
Well, it would have been harvest time, I think.
No.
Well, walnuts, I know, strawberries,
corn. It would have had to. Well, the actual feast, though. I'm talking about the actual when they.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of crops that they had.
When they invited the 90 or so Native Americans into the village.
Natives, the warriors, you mean? The 90 male warriors?
90 male warriors.
There were not that many pilgrims.
They greatly and they walked in.
Yeah.
Well, the story goes, basically, they heard gunfire, the warriors, and their chief. So they went to investigate. What the hell's going on over there? Mm-hmm. They knew, obviously, that their crazy white people are over there.
Oh, yeah.
And in their crazy clothes.
Well, they had been staring at them from the woods for a long time.
Well, sure, because, of course, they had to, laugh at their buckles on their hats. I mean,
Well, I'm sure they went back and made fun of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then they made comments about their women.
Sure.
Because, well, that's
blonde hair?
Exotic.
Ooh,
yeah.
Blonde hair.
Meanwhile.
But when they showed up, we've always made this, whenever they show the myth of Thanksgiving, there's all these pilgrims around, and there's like 6 or 7 Native Americans.
Yeah.
No.
No, they were outnumbered.
This was 90
greatly outnumbered
warriors showing up.
In my estimate, there was probably about 30 to 40.
I would imagine the pilgrims had no choice but to feed them as quickly as possible.
And they did. The natives did teach them some things.
They did, but this thing about they taught them how to fish.
They came from the Netherlands.
Come on.
Probably.
They might have showed them better fishing areas.
Well, and techniques for the
But they talk in Bradford's narrative. He talks about the plentiful fish, so it wasn't like they didn't know how to catch fish.
Yeah, and they did.
Now they did teach them how to plant corn and make it grow well.
Because you need to know your environment. You need to understand where to plant. And
thankfully, tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful tobacco.
Well, Marlboro thanks them.
God thanks them.
So, yes, putting together a curriculum, then you're looking for those themes because that's what you want to teach. So you would have tagged on the forefathers, Plymouth Rock, the symbols, the Mayflower Compact.
Symbols. You're making them up. You're doing the thing that all nations have. It doesn't matter what nation you look at. There are going to be these symbolic, mythical stories
that we connect
to. But when we learned about it a million years ago,
it's been a while. Even
today, when young kids learn about it, we don't teach this mythology the same way that it was taught to us.
No.
And we were not taught it the same way that our grandparents would have been taught it.
Sure. Because society changes, just as we're doing now.
But much like Santa Claus, and if your kids are in the room, I'm about to really spoil their belief system.
All of those myths that we surround, and you come up with, look, we have a new one now, the elf on the shelf. That's a fairly modern myth that we created.
Yeah, but
that's all economics.
But my point is,
it's all to make money.
For people who are getting upset now that are just finding out that the myth of the first Thanksgiving isn't true.
Yeah.
You should have kind of already known that, or you should have probably felt it.
Felt that there was some deeper side that you weren't getting. Go read about it. We have Google.
I mean, it's not something that's true like a rabbit bringing eggs. Okay. And the fact that it went bad.
Well, then teach your kids yourself. Tell them the other side.
And that's the other thing.
But then you're going to have to craft how you say that. No different than having the sex talk with your child. You have to decide what to add and what to tell, but what to keep out until a later time when they're more age appropriate.
Yeah, the feast was in 1621, by the way.
Okay.
And so here we go. Our harvest being gotten in, our governor sent 4 men on fowling, so that we might have a special manner rejoice together after we had gathered the fruits of our labors. They 4 in one day killed as much fowl as with a little help besides served the company almost a week.
Wow.
At which time, amongst other recreations, we exercised our arms, target practice.
Yeah, they found bows.
Many of the Indians coming amongst us, and amongst the rest, their greatest king Massasoit, with some 90 warriors, whom for 3 days we entertained and feasted, and they went out and killed 5 deer, which they brought to the plantation and bestowed as a gift upon our governor and upon the captain and others. So it's still they're getting along.
Yeah, they're
having a feast.
Are there Indians that they do not get along with? There are natives that
the Narragansetts.
Yeah.
The Narragansetts did not like the English.
Well, they saw them as a threat.
And they killed them. They had already murdered 3 Englishmen, English traders, and that was known.
So what you're saying is that within groups, some people have different views and different opinions, and some are kind and welcoming, and others are not. It's a complex situation.
You mean like life?
Yeah. I haven't read anything that was so shocking that made me feel like I had been completely lied to my whole life.
And there's no reference to turkey, by the way, either in any of the writings of the Pilgrims.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean they didn't eat turkey, because Bradford does talk about one of the first things he says is a great store of wild turkeys in the woods. So it wouldn't be surprising if they ate them. They just didn't mention it. Just a bird.
He didn't write the menu.
No.
He didn't keep a
menu. I would
menu.
imagine they cooked what they could.
Yeah, and Bradford was really thorough. I mean, his writings are very, very, and you can see the biases, absolutely, for the time.
Sure.
But, I see the biases when I watch NBC News, too, but I'm smart enough to recognize it and take what I need out of their news reports and leave the rest. And no different than this.
But the Wampanoags and the Pilgrims did get along. That is true. The first treaty, unfortunately for, I would assume, the Native Americans, the first treaty ever signed with a Native American group by Englishmen was signed on April Fool's Day.
Oh, had they only realized. See, miscommunication.
Yeah. But on April the 1st, 1621, the leader of the Wampanoag Nation and the leader of the Plymouth Colony, or leaders of the Plymouth Colony, signed a treaty to come to the other's aid should they ever need it.
So they were allies.
They promised to do no harm to each other, to come to each other's aid if attacked by third parties. That's important because the Narragansetts were attacking the English and the Wampanoags.
Because they had been trying to work out their own issues prior to the Europeans' arrival.
And if a Wampanoag broke the peace, he would be sent to Plymouth for punishment. If a colonist broke the peace, he would be sent to the Wampanoags for punishment.
So now that you've brought up their justice system.
Hang on, one more.
Okay.
In addition, the Wampanoag leaders agreed to tell friendly neighboring indigenous nations about the treaty, and it was honored for over 50 years. Now, the problem is the group they made this treaty with is a very small group.
Oh, so there's just
so
not
other
enough
people
of
are
them.
coming, and they're not going to care about that treaty.
No, why would they? It doesn't have any bearing on their lives. So really what we're just saying is that it is a complex situation. When you're a child, you only get taught part of it because you're not ready to understand.
You're not capable of understanding
all of the politics and you know.
And by the way, the new
traits.
history curriculum that they're trying to force down the throats of children,
yes,
they're going to try to make them understand this kind of stuff.
Not at this age.
In third grade.
Yeah, no, not at this age. I'm sorry. There's too many. You know what? I was disappointed by not learning in school. I was disappointed in not learning how many people were whipped or put to death because of sodomy charges.
What?
Rape,
no way.
sodomy.
They didn't
Bradford
do that kind
talks
of
about
stuff.
all that nasty stuff, and I didn't learn a damn bit of it. And you know
In
what?
fourth grade.
I would have listened.
I wanted to know about sodomy and buggery in fourth grade. What happened?
Bradford said things fearful to name had broke forth in this land oftener than once.
Oh.
There were some nasty things going on.
I want to read
with
about
it.
Thomas Granger. Let me read about Thomas Granger. Can I tell you a story
Oh,
about the case of Thomas?
Is that better than Dorothy Bradford falling from the Mayflower and dying in the calm waters?
That's true.
That is true. Bradford's
That we
wife.
know of.
And then it says he remarried. I mean, it was like nothing, like this little blip. Dorothy Bradford fell from the Mayflower because she wasn't on land. She
Sure.
stayed on the ship and died in the calm waters, drowned in the calm waters. Calm frozen waters.
Yeah.
We speculate that her clothing probably dragged her to the bottom. She did not
I don't
commit
understand how she died when she hit the water. Well, it was frozen. Oh.
She did not commit suicide, according to the internet.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have said that if she had.
No,
either.
because Puritans were, no, you're not taking the gift of life.
No,
that
only
gave
God gets to kill you.
No. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, but
Granger.
apparently they had a real problem with sexual issues.
Lascivious behavior.
Well, they were, first of all, let's talk about the Puritans. They were kind of repressive when it came to sex.
They were very, but I'm sorry, bestiality, that's just, no.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Adultery, I can handle. Bestiality,
this is in Bradford, his own words. He described the case of Thomas Granger. Thomas Granger. If you know any Grangers, let them know about this story.
We know several. Stop that. I know the last names.
It's just funny. It's an old name. Thomas Granger, a teenager who was executed in September of 1642 for buggery with a mare, a cow, 2 goats, 5 sheep, 2 calves, and a turkey. Granger. Ended
What year was that?
1642.
42. Oh,
20 years
okay.
later.
We're 20. Okay.
Anyway, Granger and an individual who had made some sodomitical attempts upon another
I know. I saw that spelling of the word sodomitical.
were questioned about how they came first to acknowledge and practice of such wickedness. The sodomitical individual confessed he had long used it in Old England. To see these new people coming over, look at the problems.
Yeah, it was okay there, but
Granger said he was taught bestiality by another that had heard of such things from some in England when he was there, and they kept cattle together.
Oh, so it came over from England. They brought their nasty stuff.
Bradford
too.
said, how one wicked person may infect the many.
Well, and Bradford says that he believed it was the devil was more spiteful against the New England churches because they tried harder to preserve the holiness and purity and punish sin. So what was happening was the devil was working extra hard.
Well, and Bradford also blames people. Servants. Or the need of servants.
Yeah.
Bradford answered that whenever the Lord sowed good seed, the envious man will try to sow bad. He said, much labor and service, much building and planting was necessary, and many untoward servants.
Yeah, and they were
thus brought over, both men and womenkind. These eventually founded their own families and multiplied, increasing the number of untoward children.
The wicked in their village.
The wicked.
You couldn't do anything about it. So if
the strangers.
If you were found guilty of sodomy proper, you were put to death.
Right.
But then there was another level of sodomy that wasn't quite as bad. So we discussed, we have these two.
And sodomy that word could be used for two different acts.
Yes,
too.
Exactly. So that fell under fornication, adultery. And then, of course, there was rape. And then you had some guys who were off in another village who were doing Roman-type feasts and I assume orgies by the word.
I know in the case of Thomas Granger, the mayor said, hey, I was into it.
Sure. Well, I think they found the mayor innocent, though. The mayor didn't die because he said.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a she. I don't know. I don't want to be making those kind of.
But anyway, so the Pilgrims, they had their own issues as well. But again, this goes back to the myth. This is what got us upset was we got all these people now who are angry about Thanksgiving.
Well,
what is Thanksgiving?
That's exactly the point. We come together as a group.
Do we even think about the myth of the Pilgrims anymore?
No, I think when people set a table and they put the horn of plenty, the cornucopia on their table and celebrate, it's just celebrating our bounty. It's celebrating the
giving
things
thanks.
And saying, I am grateful for you people. I am grateful for this food.
And the holiday itself has nothing to do with the Pilgrims. Nothing. It was a proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, and nowhere in it does he mention the Pilgrims.
The Pilgrims at all. He just says it's a time that we come together.
But that's the day we focused on, and we created this little myth to tell kids.
Well, we didn't. They did.
Well, we did as a nation.
Yes, we accepted it, yes.
In fact, the Lincoln was sent a letter by a lady named Sarah Hale, 74 years old, urging him to have a day of annual Thanksgiving and a fixed Union festival. This is 1863, by the way. We're in the middle of a civil war when this is happening.
Yeah, and yet she thinks we need to come together. And well, you know what? In the midst of war, some people do think we need to find peace and a commonality.
And so what Lincoln said, the year that is drawing towards its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. To these bounties which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come, others that have been added, which are of so extraordinary in nature, they cannot fail to penetrate and soften the heart to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God.
You know, for him having to serve during a time of such division in this country and trying so hard to bring us all back together, doesn't it seem fitting?
That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was issuing this to give thanks to God for the good things that we had in the middle of this horrible carnage. Of this,
because he recognized the feel of the country must have been terrible at that time.
He said, needful diversions of wealth and strength in the fields of peaceful industry to the national defense have not arrested the plow, the shuttle, or the ship. The axe has enlarged the borders of our country and the mines as well of iron and coal. He's going down the list of all of these things. These are the gracious gifts of the Most High God, who, while dealing with us in anger for our sins, hath nevertheless remembered mercy.
Yeah, and given us bounty.
Yes. So that's what the Thanksgiving proclamation and the holiday was about.
So what you're saying is we don't get good without bad.
Well, that's true.
And he was trying to find balance.
But it had nothing to do with the Pilgrims. So there's no reason to hate Thanksgiving Day
and to not
because of
want
a
to
myth
celebrate
that was created to attach to that day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just a myth. It's a national myth. Why can't we have it? Why can't little kids for a short time in their lives
draw hand turkeys?
Just have this image of Native Americans and white men.
But can we stop the plays?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's not have the plays.
No more of the plays.
We can let that go.
Stop watching Pocahontas. Please, God, stop watching Pocahontas.
It's kind of cute.
No, it's
Disney.
stupid.
Disney cleaned up all of those things. They helped.
No, they
come
left
on.
a few in.
Well, no, they cleaned it up from the German stories a lot.
And let's put our anger where it belongs, at the Native Americans for introducing white people to tobacco. There you go. They've killed millions.
Bring it full circle.
They got their revenge. How many people did they kill with their tobacco? By the way, if you're Native American, please, that was a joke.
I would have loved to have sat in one of the court sessions, though, as they conversed about what was sodomy proper. I mean, you're deciding whether somebody gets put to death or not.
Well, it's sodomy. It's not sodomy. It's just sodomy.
It's just sodomy. No, it wasn't sodomy proper. Many people were.
Can you describe the sodomy?
Public whippings, which, of course, all I thought was, well, that just brings more disturbed people to watch it so they can go home and do lascivious things. All right. We're probably coming up on that.
Bring in Bessie the cow. Bessie, what did you think while you were being sodomized? Moo.
Oh, gee.
Actually, I was thinking, I guess this is happening.
Yeah. I guess this is what we're doing now.
Okay.
I'm not giving him milk in the morning, okay?
I hate little Granger. Hate him. He never leaves me alone.
What about the poor little boy who tried to blow up the tried to blow up one of the cabins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teenagers were terrible then too.
They said in the story that by grace of God, no one was injured in, I think the last name of the kid, Billings' son, one of Billings' son, and Dad was out of the area at the time to make sure that everybody understood Dad wasn't there to beat his ass.
Which he needed a good ass whooping.
Because there was gunpowder in the cabin, and apparently the kid got hold of it and set it off, but there was other barrels of gunpowder that by the grace of God did not explode.
Thank you, Lord.
So if your last name is Billings, you're in the history books too.
Yeah, bad thing.
So keep hold of your sons. And
if it's Billingsley, be careful. You'll put your eye out with that Red Ryder BB gun. Oh, yeah.
You reached way back for that one, G Long.
By the way, that's another myth. It's a movie, but it's a myth. Nobody ever put their eye out with a BB gun. Come on.
Somebody else's eye, not their own. You can't reach it. Your arms are short. You're a kid.
Yeah, how do you put your own eye out?
All right. It's been probably about an hour, G Long, and we were trying not to talk for an hour and 9 minutes.
It's been 48 minutes and 35 seconds.
What? So do we need to keep going?
Let's wrap up and talk about good old Thanksgiving. Look, folks.
Well, I thought we did.
What we did, just don't get irritated and don't get upset. There are going to be sports and Debbie Downers. No, nothing personal.
Don't attach me to that. I am the most balanced person you know.
Okay, well, you're not Debbie. You're Deb or Deborah.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, there's always going to be people who
talk about the history of my name.
Who want to bring down Queen Bee? Who want to bring down people who enjoy anything.
Oh, you think that's what's going on?
Absolutely.
That they have to find the negative side. Like, I won the lottery, but I've got to pay taxes.
I've heard is hardcore liberal types. They like to have Friendsgiving. It's not Thanksgiving, it's Friendsgiving.
Well, nobody Friendsgiving us. Nobody called. We didn't have Thanksgiving. We were here by ourselves, 2 people all alone. It's so sad. Although I grew up that way, so it's not sad.
No, we watched The Great and finished the series.
We did. The Great was great. And if you need a series to watch,
that is absolutely not history.
No. Mr. In Between.
Mr. In Between.
If you like to examine characters, he's a Dexter type character, Hulu. I'll say. And Hulu.
It ended beautifully too.
Mr. In Between. It does. It wraps up. There's you're gonna finish 3 seasons?
And you'll be shocked if you were a fan of Justified. If you watch Mr. In Between, you'll see Dewey Crow
with an English accent.
Australian
Aussie accent. Yeah,
well, he's Aussie.
He is. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal series.
Anyway, you know what? On Thanksgiving Day, you get together with your people.
Yeah.
You give thanks that you're with your people. You give thanks to God if that is your choice.
You have food on the table. You have a warm place to be.
You're alive.
Yeah.
You're not having to go out into the woods and try to find food.
Yeah.
You're not having to.
You don't get lost in the woods for 4 days and then finally make your way back and have to have your shoes cut off of your feet.
Yeah.
Because there was some horrific stuff going on.
It really was.
It was Bradford's journal is good read actually.
It really is.
If you can get past the way he writes his language.
You know, were English people really cruel to Native Americans in the history books? You bet. They absolutely were. But you know what?
They weren't the only ones.
No.
Throughout history.
Disease, first of all, disease from Europe
is far cruel.
Decimated Native American populations.
Weather is extremely cruel and indiscriminate. We've already established that.
Well, the Spanish brought over all kinds of horrible diseases, and those moved through the southern populations of Native Americans.
So really they just needed
villages.
A vaccine.
Yes.
Or the people who survived became immune.
But you know what's interesting, though, weirdly enough, they had no ability to fight these diseases.
And yet some survived.
Yet some are still here. Mm-hmm. And they no longer have that problem. It's almost like nature has a way.
Of balance?
Of balance. Yeah, it's
what
weird.
have I been preaching since I joined you here, Gino?
And now we have Omicron. By the way, if you didn't know, the next letter in the Greek alphabet was supposed to be Chi, Xi, but they didn't name the new deadly variant.
We probably
Chi,
shouldn't upset the
because it would
Chinese.
upset the Chinese people, and so they went to the next letter, which is Omicron.
Are they that thin-skinned?
I don't know. I would think
we
so.
We speculate. We were being appropriate, I guess. We were being kind.
Nah. He's kind of a dick.
No, actually, I think we recognize that the Chinese outnumber us and outgun us immensely.
Well, I don't know if they outgun us particularly, but there's certainly a bunch of them.
I think that they could keep, producing when we could no longer produce.
Yeah, well.
Oh, wait, they have all the chips.
Yeah, they have all the chips.
All right, that's it. We lose.
Yeah, well.
They have all the chips.
We've got all the food. So
currently, but disease, weather.
Disease. Mother Nature don't give a front.
No, it's a rough thing.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, I guess we could wrap up our quickie Thanksgiving podcast. We should. And, everybody out there, please, please, please have a great week. And
in 3 weeks, we're going to celebrate again.
And we'll probably have some kind of useless information about Christmas as well.
Do we? Do we go back and do the history of that? Okay. We actually are going to have
Christmas.
What? We didn't have Thanksgiving, but we're going to have Christmas.
I'm loath to do this, but Santa Claus isn't real.
The spirit of Santa is. You got to have balance.
Well, that's why we celebrate Christmas, right? It's Santa's birthday or something. Isn't that how that works?
Congratulations to those who won T-shirts, and to your mom who won a T-shirt as well.
For being my mom.
And she's proudly wearing it in her new home.
Her new apartment.
Yes. With all her peoples now.
With all her people who were of her
I'm very pleased.
Era.
Yes, people her own age.
They can talk about all those things that old people talk about, like body pains and microwave bacon.
Oh, but crap, I'm talking about that stuff. And if you're not here, I might microwave some bacon. So.
We did solve the riddle of what our listener, Josh, does since he never wears shirts.
Oh, we did, because I had to Google that.
Yeah, we found out that when he's going to get in a fight, if he has to get in a fight, he wears green Speedos.
Yes, so he's shirtless already. So
which terrifies.
They are terrifying.
His opponent.
If anybody need to be scared, go Google green Speedos, because there are many, many images that are quite terrifying for a variety of reasons. Because there's some.
There are many terrifying bulbous reasons
for green Speedos.
But anyway, so it's actually
so don't get in a fight with Josh A.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like when some animals puff up.
Yeah.
He just has the green Speedos, and most of the time the enemy just simply goes, and runs away.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like plumage.
Neon green plumage.
Neon green.
I just like the word plumage.
I like the word plumage myself.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
There's our Thanksgiving episode. Find balance in your life. We're grateful for all of you people who continue to listen to our blather,
our silliness, and please everyone, do history, man. Go dig in. It's really actually quite interesting. There's so much interesting stuff about.
Yeah, you hear a topic, go look about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Go just
and,
look it up.
And do more than one source, because if you don't.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
And because it took a lot. I didn't know about the buggery thing until I went to a site that was about people who
out history is
out
what it's,
history,
yeah.
and
it was actually rather interesting. And everything they took was from Bradford's documents or from actual
but you never got that in school.
I didn't.
You never got to talk about sodomy in school.
We didn't talk about the rape charges and how exotic the English women were to the Indians, and how exotic the Indian women were to the Europeans,
or the Pilgrim orgy,
or the Pilgrim orgy. Celebrating Bacchus. I mean,
Yeah.
They were people.
They were devout. They were wonderful.
Well, they had to populate somehow.
Yeah. So
mix it up, people.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up. Say goodbye, Deb.
Goodbye.
And y'all have a great week. We'll catch you next time on the Long in the Boot podcast.